So we're here in the Zibo 737-800. We're connected via smart Copilot, our two machines. I'm in Utah. He's back east. And yeah, we're going to do a flight from... We're going to try to do a flight from Albuquerque to Phoenix. Or sorry, Phoenix to Albuquerque. Phoenix to Albuquerque. Sim Aviator. See, you said go live, and you said I'd get some subscribes. Well, you're right, Chuck. Sim Aviator subbing up. Should be a good flight. We're gonna fly Delta Sky Team today, and I'm gonna go ahead and just do the GPU part, and then just assume that you have blue light. Okay.
Got it.
All right, GPU. Yeah, I got GPU blue light now, so. All right, go ahead and you want. Yeah, go ahead and I'm going to let you go ahead and go through everything, and I'm just going to sit back and watch and learn, and then when we get ready to taxi, I'll take over with the taxi.
All right, John, you're one of those captains that does this captain's march and doesn't show up till 5 minutes prior to push and leaves the FO to do everything. So we'll go that route.
Exactly.
We'll start by putting the battery on. So if you go to the electrics panel, we'll start.
Okay.
All right, so battery comes on. I'll wait 15 seconds. Actually, 5 seconds. It's not 15. And we'll put the ground power on. So if we go to the switch where the ground power comes on.
Okay.
Next, I'm going to go over the emergency exit lights. I'm going to arm them. So emergency exit lights are coming on. Next, I'm going to go to the hydraulics, and I'm going to make sure on the hydraulic panel and the overhead panel that the hydraulic electric pumps are turned off. Next,
D-Money's with you.
Next, we're going to come over and just make sure that the bleeds. We go ahead and leave the bleeds on. You can leave them on or off. It's your choice. We usually just leave them on and then make sure the packs are off. Next, I'm going to come down to the FMC.
Wait, go back to the hydraulics for a second. So you've got just the engine hydraulics on both sides, right? And then electrical are off.
Electrics are off. Right now, we have no hydraulic power. That's kind of what we want. At this point, we want no hydraulic power. When the captain does his flow, he's going to turn the A pumps off, and he's going to turn the B pumps on, but that's going to be just prior to push.
Okay. The Dirt's with the subscribe. Thank you, Dirts. Appreciate that.
Look at that. 2 subscribes
already. 2 subscribes already.
The other thing I'm going to do is let's just go ahead and, we don't have to do this now, but let's just go ahead and throw one of the left pumps on. For when we do, we'll have that ready for when we fire up the APU.
Okay.
So
you know what? Panel. Let's stop. Let me give you some fuel first from this side. So
it's 11.4.
I need to change this to pounds.
And let's just make it easy, John. Let's just go 12.
12. Yeah. 12. Let's do that.
Make it an easy 12.
All right. So now 12. Okay. Back to the overhead. Go ahead.
Okay, so what all I did there is I just threw on the one of the
forward,
the left tank pumps for the APU. It's your choice. You can either do the forward or aft. It's just individual preference.
Okay.
Next, we'll come down the FMC and we'll start initializing the. Oh wait, I got to do this different this sim. In the real plane, I would go ahead and preload everything in the FMC, the parking spot stuff. We can't do it in this. So let's go back up to the overhead panel, the aft overhead panel. We're going to turn on the IRSs. And guys, I do apologize. I'm not a big simmer, so if I stumble through a couple of these things, it's just not being familiar with the simulator. So what I did is I just put the IRSs on. Now I'm going to come down to the FMC. And we'll program up our parking spot. And realistically, what the FO is going to do at this point, he's probably going to load everything up. So I go to FMC.
Oh,
okay. We do not
Hold on, I'll take care of that.
Yeah, what that alarm is for those guys that don't. If you guys don't know what that alarm is
battery only.
It should go off. Yeah, what's happening is it's in your cooling fan uses AC power for the IRSs. It's telling you that the IRS is overheating. I still have it on my side. Is it off on
Yeah,
yours?
let me just double check ground power here.
If not, we'll just fire up the APU.
Standby power is on auto.
By the way, this stuff does happen like this in real life. Usually what happens is the plug doesn't seat just right.
Go ahead
Usually
and
we'll get
fire
the
up.
guys to... Is it working?
Yeah, fire up the APU. Go ahead.
All right, APU's coming up. And if you want, boss, just give ground power a thumbs down out the window.
After we
Give the
get
ground
gens
guys a
on.
thumbs down, and then give them a
Okay.
disconnect GPU hand signal.
Okay.
They're going to know something's wrong too, because they're going to hear the alarms going off.
I think our Copilot is just out of sync with regard to the GPU.
Yeah, I think the two planes aren't quite talking.
There we
There
go.
we go. So I'm going to hack the clock for 2 minutes, and after 2 minutes, I can go ahead and put ground air on. So
You still hear me?
all I'm going to do is
There you
I'm just
go.
going to load up our parking gate. So we're in Phoenix, and in the real jet, you can do this before you start the IRSs up. Matter of fact, you should do this before you start the IRSs up.
Let me
We're
know
at
when
gate
you're
B9.
setting the IRS position.
Here's B9. In the real plane, if I were to click on the 3 left key where it says invalid entry, if I were to click that, the actual coordinates for that B9 parking spot would come up.
Oh, nice.
But in the sim, we have to pull it off the GPS.
Tucker65 with the subscribe. Thank you, Tucker.
All right. So what the FO is going to do at this point now is he's going to go out and do his walk around, do his external pre-flight inspection. If this is the first flight of the day, we're going to throw all the lights on. I'm not going to do the lights are on. The captain's up there. I'm going to pound on the side of the jet when I've confirmed that the lights are good, and the captain will turn his lights off on his side. If not, I got to run back up and turn them off. Otherwise, you're blinding everybody down there. We'll just assume I did the walk around. Everything looks good. Big thing's looking on walk around, making sure that the tires are in good shape. There's no damage. There's no loose panels. You're looking for bird strikes. The crew the night prior should have checked for that, but just in case, you're making sure that there's no bloody smears on the airplane, because if you do have a bird strike, you got to get it inspected before it goes. It takes about 20 minutes. Now we're going to program our route. And again, the FO takes care of all this. So the captain's usually out talking to the flight attendants, giving them a brief and stuff at this point. And realistically, in the real jet, what I'm doing takes 5 minutes. It's going to take us 20 because I'm talking through it, but good crew minutes. The other thing too is in the planes we have, you don't have to load this thing up. As soon as you put in the FMC, you put in the call sign, you hit send through ACARS, your route, all of your performance numbers auto populate into the flight management computer, which is kind of a nice function. Let's see, we're doing the 4P. What runway do you want there, boss?
Let me take a quick look outside and see what the railroad's landing. It looks like that one just landed there.
You know, I can come back and do this later.
No, it's okay. Hold on. 2-6.
All right, so we'll be doing 2-5 right. They rarely use 2-6 is always for landing, then the 2-5 rights for departure.
Okay.
So all I'm doing is I'm programming in the route. And it usually usually doesn't take this long. Again, this is just a case of looking at a sim versus knowing where it is in the airplane.
So those of you who are just tuning in, he is actually controlling my plane. So we both have a simulator up. We're on different parts of the country, and our planes are connected. And we're gonna basically be simming with the same exact plane.
For anybody who wants to follow on, the route we're flying is going to be the Fort B1 St. John transit. Then we're going to be doing the Kirky 3 into Albuquerque off of Cabno, doing that transition. So there's a little discontinuity between the arrival and the departure. We're just going to close that up because the route does have us going directly from St. John's to Cabno.
JSnap 1982, how you doing? The,
Boss, do you have the zero fuel weight by any chance? I
you
guess I
said,
just pull it off I pull it off my EFB, right?
sorry, what do you need again?
The performance data, the zero
Yeah,
fuel weight and stuff.
yep. So you just click on it. Yep.
There it is. Okay, so it looks like there's the big number we need to program this up is the zero fuel weight. So it's 103.7.
Yes, this is Bob/Chuck/off-sked descent. New Twitch
Yeah, I
name.
changed my name just because the previous one probably wasn't very good to have for the job I did. And again, all these numbers would auto-populate, but for the sim, we got to put them in. So this has got us flying at 350.
I think the zero fuel weight auto populates when you click the LSK key, but
In order to get the FMC to really work, the absolute min numbers you need is you need a cruise wind and you need a temperature. So when I was in the Air Force, if we didn't have any winds, we always used 270 at 50. That was always kind of ballpark. And on an hour flight, this is actually a 40-something minute flight. It's going to be even less important. What do you use for a temp there, John?
oh, you told me once. It's like
I'll just use
50?
10. That's standard day.
Yeah, minus
So
53. Yeah.
that's the min stuff you need. That's the min you need to get this thing to run numbers and calculate. So next, so I got that programmed up. The other stuff I would do at this point is I would get the clearance. I would get the ATIS.
Okay, 2992.
Okay, I'm going to come back to the, at this point, I'm going to come up to the pressurization panel.
Did you set the takeoff ref or you're waiting for that?
I'm going to come back to that.
Okay.
I'm going to come back to that. So let's go up to the pressurization panel. I'm trying
Okay.
to I'm trying to remember the flow I do in the plane because if I jump around too much, I'm going to forget stuff.
Okay.
So the pressurization panel, in the flight altitude, I'm going to put our cruise altitude of 350. And back me up and make sure I set that right because I can easily see slipping off of it. In the landing altitude, pretty much self-explanatory. I'm just going to go to our flight plan and see what Albuquerque is, and it's 5355. So 5350 is the closest, 50 feet to it. All right, lights at this point. I'm going to turn on the just dropping down just beneath it, the light panel. I'm going to turn on the wheel well light. That would have been turned on for the walk around. Anti-collision light's going to stay off. We'll turn that on just before push. Then I'm going to go steady on the position lights, and those are going to stay on. The position lights are going to stay on until we shut the plane back down again. So they're going to be on pretty much all day. Okay, I'm up. I'm looking at the escape rope, John,
Okay.
on the FO side, up over the right shoulder.
Yep.
If you could look up there, I'll show your viewers what I'm looking at.
Don't watch the stream though, because I remember you're on
I'm
delay.
not.
I've been up there for a while, so yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So if you guys see a panel that says spare bulbs, that's just exactly what it says. It's spare light bulbs. There's also little ties in there that we can use if we have to pull a circuit breaker. It's going to call our circuit breaker to keep us from accidentally pushing back in. But to the upper left of that, there's a little door that's got a black latch on it. Up in there is about 20 feet of rope, and it's connected to the airplane. If we have to do an emergency egress and for some reason there's a fire, I can't get out one of the doors, we're going to go out through the forward window. And that's what that escape rope's for. So what we do is I'm going to pop open that panel, make sure that that rope is actually in there. And the important thing is I want to make sure that that rope is actually physically attached to the airplane. There's a little clip. I need to make sure that that clip is safety tied. So we're going to check that out. Next, I'm going to come down to my oxygen mask. And that's just down by my right knee. And what I'm going to do on this test is I'm going to turn on my radio panel. I'm going to select interphone as active. I'm also going to turn on the overhead speaker. I'm going to come over here, and you really can't test it well, but I'm going to push the test button. I'm also going to push the red round button. There's a red round button. I'm going to push that, and I'm going to push the test button at the same time. I'm listening for the flow of oxygen, and I should also get a loud blast through the overhead speaker. That's telling me that the microphone in the oxygen mask is working. That's my oxygen test. The other thing we're going to do is this is part of the captain's pre-flight, but I'm also going to come up in the overhead panel, in the aft overhead panel, and I'm going to check the oxygen quantity. I'm going to check the oxygen quantity on the aft overhead panel just above the 3 backup landing gear lights. I need to make sure that's at least 600 pounds. Right now, this plane's got little over 1,800 pounds, so we're in great shape. But if I get less than 1,000 pounds of oxygen here, I'm limited to how many crew members we can have up here. There's 2 extra jump seats on these, so sometimes we may have 2 people commuting to work, 2 other pilots. If I'm less than 1,000 pounds, I may have to tell one of those guys, sorry, you're not going to work today because you can't ride up here because we're below our oxygen. What that's telling us is it's just limiting how long we can be on oxygen up here with 4 people. We've got a chart in our books that can tell us, but if I'm over 1,000 pounds, I'm good for 4 people for pretty much the duration of all the flights we do. All right, so the next thing the FO is going to do is going to program up the mode control panel. So I'm going to turn on both flight directors, and I'm going to turn on the captains first. This is the captain's the pilot flying today. So we'll turn on the captains first, make sure he's the master. I'm looking for the master light above, and then I'll turn on the FOs. If you forget to turn these things on, it's real obvious. As soon as you hit the toga button on takeoff, you don't get your flight steering bars. It happens occasionally. Not a big deal. Just keep flying the plane. And if you do turn them on in flight because you forgot, you got to hit the toga button again to get the flight directors to come up. I believe I saw 127 on this number. We'll come back and check it. Most guys will set about 136 before they have speeds. 136 is a really good number for the 7.3. 136 pretty much always works in an emergency if you have nothing else to use. 136 usually will always work for a takeoff. 136 will usually always work for a reference. It's not exact, but it's close enough. Obviously, in the real flight, we're going to put the real numbers, but if I have nothing else to work with, I'm going to start with that. Next thing we're going to do, I'm going to program up the altimeters. So right now we've got 2992 in. If you come over on the EFIS panel, John, on the FO side, right now I've got radio set on the upper left for the mins. I'm going to set my radio mins of 200. If I'm flying a Cat 3 approach, it's going to be 50 feet in there. If I'm flying a Cat 2 approach, I'm going to set 100. But as a default, we always set 200.
Chase 1399 with the subscribe. Thank you, Chase. Hello,
Look at that,
brother.
3
Right?
subscribes.
4.
4. And you were asking whether we should stream today or not.
I know.
Guys, let us know in chat if you think this is worthwhile or not.
I don't I already. It's worthwhile for me. Okay,
Okay, next thing
continue.
I'm going to do is I'm going to change this over to Barrow. And depending on the departure we're doing, um, generally it defaults with, we want to set 1,000 feet above our departure altitude. There's some places, if there's an engine out, like in Reno, if I lose an engine, I really can't go straight ahead. I got to turn.
Thank you,
Reno,
R1
this number is going to
Aviation,
be
for the subscribe.
different, but Phoenix is 1135, so I'm going to set 2135 in on this number. What this is doing with the auto throttles is I'm programming in a thrust reduction, and this is telling us basically where the auto throttles are going to go from takeoff thrust to climb thrust. And what did they say? Hold this thing, hold the button down.
I think that was how they made it go quicker. Yeah.
Just messed that up. Oh no, I didn't.